When Trek launched the latest 7th generation of the Madone SLR, it turned heads thanks to its radical rethink of the seat tube top tube junction. Trek called it IsoFlow, removing the previous compliance-improving IsoSpeed system entirely, with the intention of improving aerodynamics and saving a little weight. But that wasn't the only change to the latest Madone. There's a straighter top tube, deeper profiles around the head tube and bottom bracket to fill the UCI's so-called compensation zones, plus a remodeled integrated bar stem that's said to help the rider improve their aerodynamics. It all sounds pretty enticing to a racer or a speed-obsessed sportive challenger, but does the Madone belong at the top table of aero-optimized race machines? Well, I've been lucky enough to ride this bike a fair amount recently, and I'll be giving you my verdict in this video. A couple of curiosities aside, issues that you could argue should be remedied in a bike whose asking price is well in excess of £10,000, it's a pro-level bike in every respect. But before I crack on, why not subscribe to BikeRadar and hit the bell icon, so you don't miss one of the latest bike reviews. I'm going to kick things off with the elephant in the room, Trek's IsoFlow technology, otherwise known as the great big hole in the frame. This has replaced IsoSpeed technology, which was found in the top tube seat stay junction of the previous Madone. Why? Well, the IsoSpeed decouplers were seen as unnecessarily complicated compared to competitor tech, and with the comfort derived from increased tyre clearances we're seeing across road cycling now, the added weight didn't add up either. In fact, Trek said pro race mechanics would often set decouplers to their stiffest setting for their riders and leave it there. So, with the unoriginal brief to make the Madone lighter and faster, IsoFlow is said to improve aero performance and save some of the weight IsoSpeed was adding. The result is that with a rider atop it, the new Madone is claimed to be 19 watts more efficient at 45 km an hour. According to Trek, that can save you 60 seconds over what would have previously been an hour's ride, and Trek says you'll still save 59 seconds at 35 km an hour and 58 seconds at 25 km an hour. Not all of it is down to the IsoFlow system though. The frame tubing has seen a refresh of its camtail-inspired design. Look closely, and much of the curvature of the top tube is gone, and the UCI's compensation zones have been somewhat filled in. For anyone who doesn't know, these are the zones where each of the UCI-regulated maximal tube cross-sections intersect. And filling these gaps is a trend we've seen across a few of the latest aero bike releases, including the new Scott Foil RC and the Cervelo S5. But it's not just the frame which deserves a mention here. The new aero bars are claimed to account for a whopping half of the aero weight and savings alone. It's said to allow the rider a more natural and comfortable riding position, thanks in part to the narrow hood position. I'll talk more about the position and how the bike rides a little later. The new integration saves 150 grams from the overall weight of the bike, with the other half being dropped from the rest of the frame. The frame itself is crafted using Trek's top-of-the-line 800 series OCLV carbon, which you can get on any specification of the new 7th generation Madone SLR. I'm sure many of you are wondering how much this top-spec aero bike weighs, and my size large tips the scales at 7.29 kilos. That's without pedals, bottle cages, and the head unit mount. Compared to other top-spec aero road bikes, that's just shy of Scott's 7.22 claimed weight for its Foil RC Ultimate, and is likely to be comparable with Cervelo's S5, which Simon has tested at 8.2 kilos dressed in SRAM Force ETAP. Moving on to the geometry, one of the notable changes is Trek's choice to drop the pro-oriented H1 and more relaxed H2 geometry options. Instead, the new bike has the H1.5 geometry that sits midway between the two, and is already used on the latest Imonda SLR. For Trek, this streamlines the manufacturing process somewhat, and probably saves costs along the way, but for you at home, it makes choosing a Madone simpler too. Given the racy intentions of the Madone SLR, it's unsurprising to find a compact wheelbase that stays under 100 cm until you get to a double XL or a 60 cm sized frame. A 20mm shortened reach versus the old Madone combines with a progressively steepening head tube angle through the size range to produce a direct and sharp handling bike through the bars. On the road, these numbers translate as I expected. The Madone SLR is sharp as a tack and incredibly easy to tip into corners, and doesn't hide any unwanted tricks up its sleeve. Its responses are almost immediately predictable and soon feel familiar and confidence inspiring. There's a real sense of speed here. It's impressively rigid around the bottom bracket and through the chainstays, and is a joy to take by the scruff of the neck and stamp on the pedals. Out of the saddle, it easily whips from side to side, and when you get up towards 30 km an hour and beyond, the Madone holds its speed impressively. and as a personal yardstick is tangibly faster than my own Canyon Ultimate with aero wheels. All this is to say, the Madone SLR is likely to appeal to budding racers who don't want to feel like their steed is on a knife edge when taking on their local crit or road racing circuit. Those racers better have deep pockets though. A Shimano 105 Di2 equipped SLR 6 will set you back a cool $7,999 or £6,850, while the SLR 9 test bike costs $13,199 or £13,800. Aside from the price, there is one noticeable negative: a slight sensitivity to crosswinds. I live in a relatively windy area in the UK and found gusts can unsettle the Madone SLR a little, drawing me offline on more than a couple of occasions. I suspect this is partly down to the slightly V-shaped Bontrager Aeolus rims, I'll come on to those later, but the bike as a whole is visibly aero-profiled and truncated tubes can mitigate direct crosswinds only so much. Although the Madone SLR isn't designed to challenge the Amondo as Trek's bike for the mountains, I found it climbed very well, excelling on longer, steadier climbs, while also feeling great on steep rises where a 30 to 60 second effort is required. Exposed to something steeper, say for 10% gradients and for a more prolonged period of time, I suspect most riders might prefer a lighter alternative. But that's the case with most aero bikes, and across a range of terrain, the Madone SLR would most likely win out for pure pace. Do you prefer lightweight or aero? Check out Simon's aero versus lightweight wheelset video in the link below or the card above. Now, before we move on, for all the media buzz IsoFlow received when it first broke cover and the mixed response it's received since, the new tech isn't nearly as disruptive as you might think. What struck me most is that you simply don't notice it while riding. There's no doubt that the Madone SLR is a fast aero bike. It's not harsh either, even if it no longer blurs the lines with the comfort-led Domane. Road buzz levels are kept well within check, even if occasionally you can be shaken out of a slumber when you find yourself rolling over a typical broken or potholed UK road. The looks of the system are very love it or hate it, although I must say I've only received admiring comments about the overall look of the bike. Personally, I'm a fan, while any fresh thinking around bike design should really be applauded. But what about you? Get your keyboards out and let me know in the comments section. But most importantly, it should be considered in view of what Trek was trying to achieve with the new Madone. More aero, less weight, less complication. While we don't have our own wind tunnel here to test aero claims, the frame is around 150 grams lighter, and IsoFlow is certainly simpler in the sense that there are fewer parts to set up and things to adjust and maintain. From that point of view, IsoFlow is worth its space on the Madone SLR. On to the finishing kit now, and I'm going to start with the dual width integrated handlebar. It flares by 3 centimeters from the hoods to the drops, with the intention of bringing a more stable platform when riding the drops, but a little more aero when up top. It allows you to rest your palms in comfort on the flattened tops, while the flared design makes transitioning from hoods to drops and back up again very easy. Although my personal preference would be a bar with a longer reach, I found the 100mm long model a comfortable place to be. The flared drops might compromise my aero efficiency compared to narrow ones, but I found when I was there, I felt really settled and able to focus on delivering power through the pedals. For those interested, this bar is fitted to my 56cm test bike. That's a large, as standard, with a 42cm drop width and a 39cm hood width. Trek offers 11 handlebar options when you order a Madone SLR, so your ideal fit isn't likely to be far away. And if a one-piece setup isn't your thing, it's possible to swap in any 1 1/8 inch stem with a handlebar to match to get your perfect front end setup. Saddles are always subjective, but I got on well with the Aeolus P2 RSL. The shaping is well considered and allows for a deeper aero tuck or for sitting up on the tops on a climb. The saddle fits on top of a proprietary aero seat post. It's a wedge style fitment that includes a tail assembly inside to offer further support when the saddle is set to a higher position. It's a little more complicated than a standard seat post mount to set up, but we're told this will be done for you in Trek stores or one of Trek's dealers. Home adjustment is easy though, and I never encountered any slippage or creaking niggles in testing. At this price point, no expense is spared from Trek's stable of available components. The wheels are Bontrager's top-level Aeolus RSL 51s. They're tubeless ready, feature DT Swiss's excellent 240 EXP hubs, and have proven to be satisfyingly fast in virtually all conditions. The rims feature a slight V-shaped profile with a sharper rim edge than some more blunted aero wheel sets. As I mentioned earlier, I think this lends them a slight sensitivity in crosswinds. Certainly my line has been disturbed more on these wheels than many I've encountered in the new age round is fast world. But they're light at a claimed 1,410 grams a set, with little to hold you back when accelerating and powering over a steep rise. Pickup and engagement is direct and sharp, and for those of you who like a noisy free hub, it's strong and deep without being overly shouty. But if I could make one change to the overall build of the Madone SLR, it would be the tyres. Bontrager's R4 320 tyres offer good suppleness, good grip, and no real shortcoming in detectable rolling speed, but they're not tubeless ready. Personally, I can take or leave tubeless tyres, but there's no doubt the tech has groundswell of support, and for many good reasons. And these are 25C tyres, measuring out at closer to 27mm at 76 to 80 psi on very wide airless rims. It's all within ETRTO recommendations, but by fitting at least 28C tyres, the Madone SLR would surely benefit from the greater comfort the increased volume would provide. Many would argue there's more speed to be had too. With the loss of some inbuilt compliance from IsoFlow, regaining this with wider tyres makes absolute sense if you're not riding on super smooth surfaces. It's worth noting that compared to this year's stable of new aero bikes, the Scott 4LRC, Cervelo S5 and Giant Propel, the Madone SLR features the lowest recommended tyre clearance at 28C. That said, there's a little space left over there should your tyres plump out a little more and you're willing to stray beyond the official recommendations. So, does the Madone SLR deserve a place at the top table of the new generation of aero bikes? It's certainly put a smile on my face during my time with it, and it's shown sharp teeth as an out-and-out aero bike that will definitely appeal to racers. I applaud Trek for thinking differently and developing its IsoFlow tech. For me, it improves the bike for its design primary purpose with little to no downside. But there's no getting away from the cost. It's an eye-wateringly expensive bike, and there are rivals launched this year that undercut it on price significantly. It also carries flaws in its tyre spec, which would be a niggle on a mid-range bike, but are a real shame here. Overall though, the Madone is a mightily impressive bike to ride, in virtually any situation you could want to challenge it with. For that, it's a real competitor against the latest aero race bikes. What do you think? If you were shopping for an aero bike, would you go for the Madone or one of its competitors? Let us know in the comments. And if you're looking for more aero bike content, then why not check out this video?